Jason Shurka was a real estate agent, and in 2018, he met a mysterious whistleblower or insider called Ray. And Ray revealed to him many things about secret governments, the deep state, secret space programs, extraterrestrial life. And that began a journey with Jason, where today he is now putting out a lot of information about secret space programs, ET life, and also specializing in health technologies based on light and frequency that can change the world.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome, Jason, to the show.
Thank you very much, Michael. As I said, I'm a big fan of your work. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, well, it's great that we finally get to meet. I've noticed you doing a lot of things over the years, and I really didn't know that much about you, and I did kind of like want to finally get to interview, but it took a few years to actually get around to interviewing you, but here we are. So why don't we begin with your business background in real estate and what it was, what happened in 2018 that got you to kind of like move away from that?
Sure. So I was born into a real estate family, first generation real estate family, nothing that, lasted generations. So I would be considered second generation. My family comes from the Middle East, so Iranian background, after that Israel, and then came to America a very long time ago. And right place, right time, 80s in Brooklyn, got into real estate. That was about 35, 40 years ago, and that's the family that I was brought into. So basically, ever since I was a kid, I was always being sort of shown and taught the real estate world. And already from like 10, 11, 12 years old, I was really excited to get to the point of like 18, 19 years old to be able to take over my father's position because he was the president of the company. And around 18, 19 years old, my life also changed in many, many different ways that brought me to what I'm doing today. So I was already working with the family for quite some years, even before I was 18 years old, just learning out of passion, understanding, how it all works, how that industry works, how those markets work, and so on and so forth. And there came a point in my life where over a period of a few years, I had many injuries that happened. I dislocated this shoulder 23 times. I got shoulder surgery 3 times, almost needed a mechanical shoulder by age 18, 19 years old. Got a staph infection in my leg while I was backpacking in Thailand by myself. I still don't know how my parents let me do that when I was 18, but they did. And all of these injuries kind of put me in the hospital for a period of 4 years in and out. And there came a point around my 19th birthday where I kind of woke up to seeing that I wasn't living my life in the best way that I could. That kind of moved me away from the real estate world a little bit as I was 20, 21, 22 years old, because it wasn't serving the purpose that I wanted to serve in the world. And the place that I came from was if I came into such a blessing in my life, then why do something that's not purposeful? So right before my father decided to retire, I broke the news to him. He was waiting for me to take over, and I told him, I said, listen, I'm not interested in doing this. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And this is where the unified organization came from in terms of doing something purposeful in the world. And he supported me, although he was scared for me because of the types of things that I was talking about, the types of things that I was exposing. He was also not very happy that I wasn't going to be working in the family business. But thankfully, I took everything that he and my family taught me ever since the day I was born, essentially, and really translated into how do I run this new organization, meaning the unified organization, what I run today, in the best possible way, not only from a business perspective, but also from an impact perspective. And that brought me to doing what I'm doing today, which is just exposing a lot of things, sharing a lot of things, bringing a lot of awareness to the world. And it's not always about the negative things in the world either. It's also, how can we be better people? How can we learn the formulas and equations of purposeful creation in the world and in our lives today? So I've written a few books on those topics, and I'm doing what I love.
Wonderful. It's always important and inspiring when you're doing what you love and succeeding, which is even better.
Yes, 100%.
Living life on the bleeding edge is no fun, even if it is what you love to do.
100%.
So in 2018, there was this person came into your life called Ray, who is an anonymous insider. So I thought I'd just play a short trailer clip from your website, where people who don't know about Ray, including myself, get a little bit of an idea of him, and then you can take us into the more details. So let me play that.
On the more controversial conspiracy theory side, on controversial topics, again, extraterrestrial. I know they were involved in operations. I thought that you were involved with as well. When do you see these entities, these beings coming out?
Maybe they're waiting for the age of love, but they have their orders. They cannot act on their own. They're getting orders like I do.
Well, they can't act on their own if they choose to.
No, they can't. Not in this realm of action. No, they can't.
What do you say to this realm where you speak about on planet Earth?
Yes.
And where do they get their instructions from?
Everybody has a superior.
Do you believe that within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see more action with those entities in a positive light? More interaction publicly?
The action is the same. The only difference is publicly. You will get more exposure, but the action is the same throughout history, more or less.
Do you believe it will be more of a public thing that's going on, where there will come a point where it's just normal?
If you get rid of the corrupt evildoers, psychopath leaders, and their controlled media, yes.
But don't you think if they showed themselves, that would be a big hit, that would change the world overnight?
I agree. But maybe they're afraid it's going to create a war that they don't want to start either.
Okay, well, that's a little teaser into Ray. So tell us, how did you meet him, and what convinced you that he was actually genuine?
It's a great question. So let's start from the very beginning, just to put things into perspective. Anytime I speak to audiences, I ask, are we all on the same page that there are negative organizations out there, negative agencies and authorities and individuals out there that are doing things that are more self-oriented and self-serving as opposed to serving to others? And everybody always raised their hands and they say yes. And they name things like, the CIA, the Mossad, so on and so forth. And by the way, even with those organizations, there are some people that are great, that don't have bad intentions, but we're talking about the very, very, very high levels that do things for some corrupt and manipulative purposes. So the next question becomes obvious. If there are negatively oriented organizations and agencies out there that we know about, would it make sense that the opposite exists as well? And to me, the answer is, of course. The fact that we focus on the negative side doesn't mean the positive side doesn't exist. It just means that we focus more on the negative side. But there must be a counterbalance to that. Just in the laws of how things work with balance. If there's this, there's that. That counterbalance is good, bad, life, death, so on and so forth. So when I met this individual in 2018, I think it was right before my 20th birthday, if I'm not mistaken, 20th or 21st birthday. He didn't tell me who he was. He didn't tell me where he comes from. He didn't tell me who he worked with. And I think that was, number one, by design, and also very intelligent, because just imagine somebody comes out of the blue on the street, introduces themselves and says, I work with these people and this is what I do and this is what I've experienced. You would never take them seriously, especially somebody like me that comes from a very physically oriented business family. We don't do those things. Although I was always interested in them, I watched things like Ancient Aliens growing up. It was something that was interesting to me. But nonetheless, if somebody came and said that to me without me having a background and rapport and trust with this individual in the first place, I probably would never listen. So that's not how it started. It started more so as a random individual that comes and begins a friendship. And with that friendship over time, of course, he knew and they knew what they were doing. I had no idea what was going on. So it was just an interesting individual. We were having interesting conversations. We would meet for lunch. We would meet for dinner. We would talk about all these things. And over time, and when I say over time, we're talking over a period of 2 years, he shared more and more. And he also showed me certain things that made it easier for me to understand and also accept certain truths. So number one, is everything that he speaks about something that I've seen with my own eyes? No. Are some things that he's spoken about things that I've seen with my own eyes? Yes. And those some things made it easier for me to accept everything else. But with that, I think no matter how much you trust somebody, there's always room for healthy skepticism. Even in the interviews and the conversations on camera that we have together, I always challenge him. I don't always agree with him, but I do think it's interesting, and I do see it leading to a better place ultimately, because the call to action is never give away your liberties. It's take your liberties back. Stop watching, the black box in your living room that's brainwashing you and manipulating you in many various different ways. Stop trusting these individuals blindly that just say, follow me and I'm going to bring you to the Holy Land, or, to your ultimate destiny, whether it's a politician or whatever it is. So it was over this period of a 2-year period it was really a year and change, between June of 2018 and February of 2020, February 6th of 2020 being the first time I ever had a meeting with individuals from the organization that he actually worked with. And that was my first real on-the-ground physical experience that then started and kept evolving from there.
So can you talk about that organization that he belonged to? Tell us what it is. Are we talking about a secret society, a lodge of a larger organization?
Sure. So I don't know if I want to call it a secret society. I would call it more so, think about it like this, not that it's the same at all. But let's say there's an organization like the CIA. And in the CIA, you have certain units in the CIA that me and you probably have never heard about. Does that make that group of people a secret society, or something that just works behind the scenes? I would say more so something that works behind the scenes, because a secret society, at least the way I define it, implies some sort of negative association with hiding certain things for self-serving interests. That's not the case over here. So again, just like there's negatively oriented organizations, there are positively oriented organizations. The light system in this case, which is the organization we're talking about, is not one of one. It's one of many. I haven't worked with many others. I've worked with them in the past. That's why I can speak on it, because I've had my own firsthand experiences there. But ultimately, when it comes to what they do, it's more spiritually oriented with physical counterparts. So there's a mission that a spiritual mission, I should say, that should be and is brought out through physical means. For example, let's say the mission is, and this is, if I were to give like a blanket statement mission from my understanding and my experience with these individuals, the goal is always, how do we help the collective of humanity awaken? How do we help the collective of humanity reach higher states of awareness, higher states of consciousness, higher states of spirituality? And they would do that in many different ways. One of which could be, let's say, planting somebody purposely, or connecting with somebody purposely in politics that will have a positive impact on the health and wellness space, stopping certain schedules that they implement on children, let's say, that could be very toxic for those children. So they have people that work there. They have people that work in Hollywood that will use media and certain Hollywood productions to implant subliminal messages to get people used to certain things that may have seemed like sci-fi in the past. These are just some examples of many. But what I've seen over and over and over again from the things that they've done, and why I have no reason to believe there's a negative association, at least from my perspective, is because I've seen the outcomes of their actions, and not almost, they are always something that has an intention of leading to good.
So can you describe a little bit about what's involved in joining an organization like that? Because I know you did decide to join. So when you join, I mean, do you take an oath? Do you swear allegiance to a particular entity, or is it to a cause or ideals? What's involved in joining the organization?
So I just want to correct one thing that you said. I am not formally a part of the organization. To be formally a part of the organization, you have to go through something called an initiation. Initiation happens on December 23rd, which, by the way, is on the I guess, solstice of every year, which is around the 21st. But December 23rd, every year, there's like a ceremony welcoming all the individuals that are now formally a part of it. I have never been invited to that, not yet at least. It's not something that I've ever been to, but I know individuals that were there because I worked with other individuals that, of course, were initiated. So initiation in terms of pledging allegiance, let's say the way that you said it, there is nothing having to do with, pledging to an entity or anything like that, which would probably make it really weird, and I would never have anything associated with that, at least on a personal level. It's more so, let me explain it this way. The group is made up of today about 8,000, 8,500 people worldwide. Some of these people, by the way, are super normal people. Most of them are very normal people that you've never heard about. They're not like a bunch of famous people that are politicians and high net worth individuals. That's not what they look for. What they look for, and it's something that I don't completely understand, but what they look for are certain individuals that have certain abilities that they're either born with, and they help you develop those abilities. Now, some of that can be through prayer. Some of that can be not that you're born with, but something that you're taught. Really good hackers. I'll give you a stupid example. They have individuals that I've seen this happen. It's very cool. If you have to get from one side of New York City to another side of New York City, there's two things that will stop you. There's traffic and there's traffic lights. These individuals, just on a small, stupid example, are able to turn all those traffic lights green, manipulate the traffic, and get somebody faster to the other side if needed. So that's like one example of a physical way that they would help reach certain success in an operation that they're bringing forth. I do want to say there's a lot of people that hear this and they say, oh, it has to do with like channeling and aliens. No, that's not what's going on here. These are human beings. These are physical human beings. You can speak to them. You can email them. You can eat with them. It's normal people that have dedicated their lives to something. And in this case, that something is the mission of what we're talking about here. How do we elevate the collective consciousness around the world? So it has nothing to do with channeling. It has nothing to do with interdimensional beings or anything like that. Maybe there are certain connections over there that I don't understand myself, but my personal firsthand experiences have been with real physical human beings. I've seen things, I've worked with them, and it's been pretty awesome. But yes, there is no formal like ceremony where you pledge allegiance or there's an entity that everybody looks up to. There's various different religions, whether you're a Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, whatever it may be, whether you're gay, straight, it doesn't matter. That's not what they look for. What they look for is what is your potential, and can we help you develop it in a short period of time to reach that potential?
Okay, well, this raises some very interesting questions about the organization. People have heard of other organizations like the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians, and they all, to varying degrees. I think the Rosicrucians are known for doing something similar to what you just described, where they develop the members' abilities, psychic abilities. They're very interested in that. We know Freemasons like to recruit psychics and things like that. And I totally accept that there's going to be some of these organizations that go down the dark path because the leadership is compromised, but there are going to be other organizations that hold on to high ideals and behave for the benefit of humanity. So I have kind of like come across this before, where these lodges exist, and of course they're kind of like in conflict with one another.
Yes.
All right. So you mentioned this organization has 8,800 members around the world.
About 8,500 around the world. Yes.
Okay. All right. And sorry that they are very much focused on positive ideals, and you are someone that they feel can get information out to change the world in a positive direction, but you haven't yet been initiated into this.
For whatever reason, so my job when I came in was I was given the choice, of course, and they gave me the opportunity to essentially be like a spokesperson and share certain things that they would share. Now, I said, okay, so long as I have, discretion over if I want to share it or not. There may be things I don't want to share, no problem. Free will the whole way. Now, my first question was, in all honesty, why are you coming to some kid in his 20s that doesn't have the experience in the world? Like, go to this person or this person that has all the credentials, all the credibility, all the power in the world, all the resources to do what you guys want. And I was laughed at when I said that, and I really didn't understand. And to this day, I mean, every time I asked that, their response was, whether anybody accepts it or not, their response was, we want you to do it because you have certain abilities that you may not be aware of. And I said, okay, I don't really know what that means. I don't really care what that means. But if I could do something that helps, I'm all in. Now, as of January 1st or beginning of January, when Ray retired and his higher up, which was also my higher up, this woman named Diana, but once they retired, there was somebody else. There was like a so-called new leadership, if you will. Ray was not part of that leadership. D was part of that leadership. The organization is broken up into different chapters. So D was running the New York chapter. And the New York chapter, although there are various different chapters, is the equivalent to, while there's many different countries around the world, the president of the United States has a lot of power, even though there are many other presidents. Same thing with the New York chapter. It holds a lot of weight and a lot of power. So the individual that runs that faction, that chapter as they call it, is an individual who's very important. And this new guy came in to take over, and that new guy actually decided that they don't want things to be as public as it was over the past few years, which changed my job quite a bit, because my job was the public spokesperson. Let's share things. When they made that decision of, we don't want to share things as much for reasons that are beyond my comprehension, it's beyond my scope, maybe that will change in the future, but that changed what I do from the day-to-day, how I interact with them and why I would interact with them or why they would reach out to me. So today, my job is a lot less frequent, if not frequent at all, since January when it came to doing what I was meant to do. There may come a point in the future where they're going to come and say, okay, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And at that point, I can decide if I choose to do it. So far, formal initiation did not come, but that's also normal because there are a lot of people. It's not like they approach you and you're initiated. They approach you. There's a training period. Some people, it can last a year. Some people, it can last 8 years. Some people will never be initiated. They're just in contact with them. And it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of people that say, Jason, how do I join? There's no like application that you can, look up and join. They would have to come to you. But my answer is it doesn't matter, because whether you're a part of this group or not, that's more of like the level of the ego. It doesn't matter if you're a part of a group with a label or not. It matters if you're doing something that's benefiting people around you and helping people around you. And if that's helping one person, your immediate family, your town, your village, your city, your state, your country, or the world as a whole, every single piece of that is important. And if you do that part in the best way that you could, I really think that's all that matters.
Okay, I wanted to kind of discuss a book that reveals the kind of workings of one of these lodges. And I don't know if you've come across this before. It's allegedly by a Grand Master from one of the lodges who defected and revealed the inner workings, and they describe some of the things that you've mentioned in terms of like developing psychic abilities, being able to manipulate events around them, that they really into astrology.
Yes.
All of that, and it's all about developing abilities and the kind of mental abilities that they have. It's kind of like a Sith Lord, if you like, because this particular organization was one that was really predicated on some very dark initiation practices and sacrifice of people, the sort of thing we understand with SRA and Satanism and so forth.
Yes.
But it sounds like the organization that you're working with is, like we've said, is the light side of this. Kind of like if this is the school of Sith Lord training and how they do it, it seems that there's a lot of similarities with the way they train Jedi Knights.
So it's interesting because you can have the same mechanism with a completely different outcome based on the intention of the individual behind it. So let's say that I was a trainer or something like that, which I'm not, but let's say that I was a trainer to help somebody develop certain abilities that they have, remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, whatever it may be. if I'm a bad person with negative intentions, I can train for negative outcomes. And if I'm a good person with good intentions, I can train for positive outcomes. Now, there's one thing that I do want to mention here to you, Michael, and all the viewers watching. Don't think for a second that every single person that came or comes into even the light side, and this organization specifically, remains in the so-called in the light. There are people that have gone rogue. There are people that have ended up doing negative things. But based on the way that they structured this organization, those people are taken care of or kicked out immediately. And they're completely erased from that organization. So there have been individuals, and I'm sure this happens in many good organizations as well, just like in bad organizations, there are whistleblowers that want to shed light on it. There are people that are good in the beginning that go into good organizations that end up being corrupted. Because when you give people or somebody a lot of power very, very fast, they usually don't do that unless they have no other choice, because it's almost bound to end up in some sort of corrupted reality. Think of the lottery. Somebody that comes from a regular household or even a low-income neighborhood wins the lottery, wins $500 million. What usually happens? They lose all the money because they were not trained or went through the developmental stages of being able to handle that level of money. And the same is true when it comes to developing certain abilities. If you were to be taught without understanding the responsibility that comes with the abilities that you're taught to develop, you can end up actually doing very corrupt things with them. And there have been individuals that have done that, and those individuals were kicked out immediately, and also those abilities gone.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the yin-yang principle definitely operates. There's always good, even in a very dark organization like this one that this HM Stool belonged to, that it was very dark, but he embraced the light, and he describes his journey to doing that. But you've also described how in positive organizations, people can go dark because of the corrupting influences and so forth. And, and I think that's a constant process, and probably ongoing in most organizations, including Freemasons and the Jesuits, and these are the ones that people again and again point to as being the dark controllers.
Which I agree with, by the way, because many of those organizations, specifically the Freemasons and others, Bilderberg Group, things like that, are the organizations that the light system organization would actually counteract a lot of their actions and activities, which was probably the most exciting part of my time when I was very involved with it, because certain things would be shared with me before they happened, and then I saw they happen, and then sometimes you would see them on the news, and it was very exhilarating and exciting, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us about some of the information that Ray revealed to you? I think you have 7 episodes on your channel, which are just Ray talking about different topics. So, you want to tell us about Ray's interviews? Sure.
So, number one, the series you're speaking about is called Disclosure. It's a 7-part series. There's another series on the platform called Conversations with Ray. It was less based on disclosure topics like Antarctica, extraterrestrial life, other individuals he worked with, secret programs in the government, certain individuals in the government, and very powerful individuals who may not have our best interests in mind. And Conversations with Ray was kind of like an offshoot, just speaking about a lot of different topics. Topics like the secret space program, topics like Angels and Demons was one of the titles of an episode, which speaks about, what is, I don't want to say the truth, because at the end of the day, it's also bound to his interpretation, his experiences, and his understandings. So we can never call it the truth. He's still an individual that could have mistakes and could have misinterpretations, but nonetheless, it's interesting. So Antarctica is probably one of my favorite topics. I think it's many people's favorite topics because it speaks about certain bases. I think we all know, for those who don't, the Nazis, even around the times of Hitler, were building a base and had a base in Antarctica. It's a name that I can't pronounce, so I don't know what the name was in terms of the correct pronunciation, but there were even blueprints that were revealed and drawings that were revealed of how the Nazis at the time were attempting to reverse engineer anti-gravitational propulsion crafts. And some say they worked with extraterrestrials, some say they didn't. What I found very interesting, and this was in part 2 of Disclosure, if I'm not mistaken, was when he spoke about not only all of those things happening in Antarctica, but Antarctica being a place where very powerful individuals who, for lack of a better word, run the world and manipulate the world in many ways, regardless of what government does it, the same individuals and families behind it ultimately hide a lot of things in Antarctica because it's a very hard place to get to. There's also military control there, and you can't get to a lot of places there. So according to Ray, Fort Knox does not have all the gold that we think that it has. What he says is the gold in Fort Knox today is actually a decoy, and the real gold is in Antarctica, which could make sense, right? I don't know what's true or what's not. I haven't been to either of those places and tested the gold to be able to tell you. But again, these are not my words. They're his words. I'm giving the platform to be able to share it. Take what you want, leave what you don't, and ultimately find the higher message there. So Antarctica was a very, very interesting topic. Extraterrestrial life was always an interesting topic to me. I think it's been more controversial in the past than it is now. A lot of people are starting to accept that there is life outside of this planet, which, by the way, statistically speaking, there must be life outside of this planet. It doesn't make sense that we live in this vast universe that never ends and keeps expanding, and we're the only intelligent life form to ever exist. I think that's a very arrogant perspective. But here's one of the controversial things that he and the organization hold as their truth. And this is one of the so-called knowledge points that they would pass down that many people don't agree with. And it was hard for me to understand in the beginning, but I do agree with them, so I'll share it. What they share over and over again, it was a very adamant point that Ray kept making throughout any episode in any series that brought this topic up of extraterrestrial life, was that at this point in time, there is no negatively polarized extraterrestrial life. Now, common person with normal logic and even very good researchers come out and say that can't be true, because if there's good, there must be the opposite. And many people have certain experiences where they say they've had negative interpretations, at least negative experiences with life that they believe is outside of this planet. Then you have this whole reptilian narrative, which, by the way, I was totally on, and they don't negate that narrative. They just give a reframing on it. So what they say, and their logic is sound in my opinion, is number one, if we look at extraterrestrial life and all the sightings that have been seen with all the UFO sightings and so on and so forth, there's never been a truly documented case with firsthand experience of true negative intentions. Meaning like a UFO invasion or even abductions with negative outcomes. The ones that have been documented, Stephen Greer, for example, has been a whistleblower, or an individual that brought in whistleblowers, that said a lot of those were manufactured by the CIA to make us afraid of these entities with technologies that we may not understand. Now, the reason why I can agree with what they're saying is because we are not separate from extraterrestrial life. We are all just life, right? And I'm just giving you a perspective here. We are all just life. So when we look at ourselves as all life in the universe as a whole, yeah, there must be the good and the not good, or the good intentioned and the corrupted. And I believe that we are the corrupted. The corruption is happening on this planet. We are a part of that whole that brings the balance, unfortunately, and hopefully can bring a greater balance where we don't have that duality anymore, but we have a singularity of good intention. Now, beyond that, go to Atlantis. Whether your viewers believe it existed or not, I believe they do believe that existed, but take the idea of Atlantis and even, documentations and things that were shared from that time in that history. The understanding from Atlantis is, or the so-called lesson that we can take from Atlantis is, when your technological development surpasses your spiritual development, you end up in self-destruction, because you then have in your possession technology that can do incredible things without the spiritual understanding and conscious responsibility of how to deal with them. So you end up using those technologies for negative purposes. That's exactly what we're seeing on our planet today. But that's not necessarily what we're seeing on maybe other planets or life that come from other planets, because what we do see on video, documented even in recent history over the past few years, are crafts. What it is, I guess we can't say for a fact, but crafts that are working in ways that we do not completely understand, working in ways that defy the laws of physics that we understand, which means that there is a higher level of technology that whoever is operating those crafts has. And if they're not coming here to kill and murder and take over and so on and so forth, then, by the way, if they haven't even wiped themselves out and they were able to get here in the first place from so far away, logically, I've come to the conclusion, and this may not be true, this is just my conclusion from my perspective, I've come to the conclusion that if their technological development is so high and they still exist and they haven't come to attack and kill, that must mean that their spiritual development and awareness must be expansive as well. And then you have situations like the Ariel School phenomenon, which happened in the 90s in Zimbabwe, if I'm not mistaken, where you have like 100 or 200 kids, which all say the same thing. And kids can't play a game of telephone without breaking it, but they all said the same exact thing. This craft landed. They all drew this almost the same exact thing. These beings came out. They were wearing these suits. They didn't speak to us, but we got a message. And that message was, you are doing harm to your planet. Your technology is getting out of hand and you're not using it the right way. And if you keep going on this path, if you keep polluting your planet, you're going to self-destruct. That, to me, sounds like a very advanced spiritual being in physical form. And that's why I would agree with their perspective and their knowledge. Whether it's true or not, I can't tell you for a fact. I'm just telling you what I agree with and what makes sense to me logically as well, that I don't believe that extraterrestrial life coming from outside in is here for negative purposes, because they've never shown that. And the only reason we have to believe that that may be true is because Hollywood portrayed it that way, and the government's portrayed it as a threat to national security. And the individuals behind two of those factions are the same individuals that see that technology as the greatest threat to them, because free energy technology, if it exists, would revolutionize the world in the most positive way for humanity, but it would also destroy the powers that be. And that's where I stand with it.
Okay, that's a very important question that you raise, and I think I've come across this idea before, and this is the cosmic agencies say something similar, that the larger universe or the galaxy is predominantly fifth density, that beings in that are much aligned with kind of like positive energies. You do have some negativity, but overwhelmingly it's positive. But on Earth, as a third density civilization, we have a lot of negativity, and that's something that 3D kind of perpetuates, because there's this increased lag time between our intention and what we manifest around us, whereas at 5D it's almost instantaneous. So then we have stories like the Book of Enoch and the fallen angels, where the what are fallen angels are kind of like extraterrestrials who are being punished, and they're being banished from 5D society, and they're put on Earth in this 3D world where they're going to have to cope with the reality here, but they do have the superior knowledge, and so they develop the technologies, and that's where you have the kind of negative ET element coming in.
Yes, 100%. I could totally agree with that as well. On the reptilian side of things, the way that they explain that, because I was always a believer and advocate for that narrative as well, and the way that they explained it, which I found interesting, they said, and this is in episode 2, second part of the disclosure series with Ray as well, because I asked him that question specifically. I said, listen, like, what's with this whole reptilian thing? If you're saying on one hand negative extraterrestrials from the outside in don't exist anymore, at least, then what about the reptilian narrative? And his response, again, whether it's true or not, is up to the viewer. This is if it resonates or not, and if you can, cross-reference it. But it did make sense to me. He said, Jason, reptilians are not humans. Reptilians, as people say, shapeshifters, things like that, are humans that have the ability, genetically speaking, to be able to do things. And not all of them are bad. There are some people that can do great things with that, and there are some people that do bad things with it. Almost like the organizations that we speak about. Not all the organizations undercover are bad, but we think they're all bad because that's all we speak about. There is a light side to it too. So what they're saying is what people call reptilian are not this outside extraterrestrial thing. They're human beings that have an ability with certain genetic markers to do things that are a little bit different, maybe very different than somebody like myself and yourself. They have the ability to do those things according to them, like shape-shifting and whatnot. Some of them are good and some of them are not good. But to create a blanket statement of these are all bad people and bad entities and they're here to kill you, they don't agree with that. And his explanation is a lot more elaborate in part 2 of the Disclosure series.
Well, I want to talk about what he revealed to you about secret space programs. And I know this is something that's publicly available in a YouTube video you released on your channel.
Yep.
So why don't you tell us what did he reveal about the existence of secret space programs?
So I'm going to give you bullet points based on my memory on it, because I don't remember all the details that he shared. There's been a lot of conversations, and that was, I think, like 6, 7, 8 months ago. So I don't remember all the details, but few bullet points. He speaks about certain bases on the moon, certain projects that were done to send individuals to the moon, some with consent, some without consent. I know that's very controversial because some people say, well, we never made it to the moon. Some people say the Earth is flat. Some people say space doesn't exist. I don't agree with any of those things. The moon landing, however, could be something of, I can agree and disagree, because it does make sense to me that there was a Hollywood studio set up in case, put yourself in the shoes of a government that was going there, whether good intention or bad intention. If you were going there and you didn't know what you were going to find, you would need a backup, especially if you're so-called putting it or broadcasting it on live television. So it makes sense to me that there was some form of Hollywood studio with producers there faking it in case they needed to. It's also possible that America never made it to the moon, but I do think that we made it to the moon. And in my opinion, I think we made it to the moon way before we think we made it to the moon. I just don't think people know about that publicly. That's a conversation for a different day. But he speaks about certain things that happened between the Americans and the Germans around World War II. How the German base in Antarctica was taken over by the Americans after World War II. He speaks about the bases on the moon as well, and certain projects and experiments that they're doing on the moon as well. But to give you all the details, I would have to rewatch it, and I recommend everybody rewatch it because it's very, very interesting.
Certainly is. Now, one of the things that he does discuss, and it's a topic that has come into public discussion now with 3i Atlas, is the possibility of a Project Bluebeam finally going ahead. And people are speculating whether 3i Atlas is going to be used for that. So what did Ray say about Project Bluebeam, and is there any crossover with 3i Atlas?
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up Project Bluebeam. The idea, the narrative, which, by the way, I agree with. I'm calling it a narrative, but I agree with it, that certain individuals, authorities, governments, powers that be will use the illusion of an extraterrestrial or alien invasion in order to make us afraid, in order to then take away further liberties. Because that's what happens in every situation like this, including COVID. Take away liberties, make the public experience this collective fear, and make them be the ones to say, okay, government, do what you got to do. We're begging you to do it, instead of the government trying to impose it on the people. It's like a reverse psychology. So in regards or connection to 3i Atlas, I don't believe that any of that would have to do with Project Bluebeam in this case specifically. It's possible that it does. But there may or there may not come a point. It depends on how much we speak about it, how much awareness we spread about it. And this is why the Light System as an organization was so adamant on also bringing this out. Not because they wanted to induce fear and say, guys, this is what the government's going to do next, but because they also have their own form of psychology, and I'll explain it. The more we speak about it, and the more people like yourself, myself, colleagues, and so on and so forth bring attention to this potential, the less likely it is to happen, because we're exposing a card before it happens, and we foil a plan before they can actually bring it to fruition. So at this point in time, I don't know if Project Bluebeam is going to happen anymore, just my opinion, because of how many people are starting to become aware of that. And a lot more people know about that today than used to know about it 2, 3, 4 years ago. I personally don't believe 3i Atlas is going to be a piece of that, although it may be. And if it is, it would make a lot of sense, because, I mean, there is I'm forgetting his name. He's a mentalist. He's a mentalist from the United Kingdom, at least based on his accent. He has a video on YouTube, a very famous video, where he wanted to make an individual feel or think that there was a zombie apocalypse happening. So what did he do? This was like a month-long project. He started and the guy's family knew, and everybody knew they were doing it on him as like a social experiment to see what they can do. And they started kind of putting information out on the news, not on the real news, but on the news that they would show on his screen in his home, thinking that he was watching the news, kind of dripping these ideas of this is coming, there's this comet coming, it might be leading to an apocalypse, so on and so forth. And they kind of like brainwashed him over a period of 30 days to get him to the point to believe that if this happens, it must be real, because they prepared him for it. And they created this whole set where for an entire, I think it was a few days, this guy actually thought that he was one of the only people left in the world. And there was a little girl that they planted there that he thought her mother was killed, and he was taking care of this little girl, and he really believed it. Now, it's an incredible video that I recommend everybody to watch. If you look up zombie apocalypse mentalist on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find that he's a very famous mentalist that does these sort of things, but that's more so as a social experiment. Things like this are done on the public every single day. They use the media on a collective level to drip things. They did it with COVID as well, to drip these new narratives into the public, to get certain people to speak about it, to make it so real that even if it's not, people believe it. COVID was a perfect example, because if you'd never watched the news, everything was fine. You wouldn't have known anything was going on. But they got us to believe something that were people dying, yes. But again, not to get into all those details, there were a lot of manipulations going on there. And there were a lot of people that lived around the world that didn't even know what was going on because they weren't watching the news. Now, if the 3i Atlas comet would be used for such a thing, I would believe, and I would think they would be doing it a little bit differently. They would be dripping news of, alien apocalypse, alien invasion, things like that. And I've seen that, but not coming from so many of the mainstream outlets, more so coming from the lower level outlets, the conspiracy outlets, which, by the way, I am one of them. So I'm not separate from them, but we call them that because that's just a name that we got to give it. So the reason why I don't think 3i Atlas is one of those directly connected to what may be in the future Project Bluebeam is because I don't think it's been being set up the right way to be that. And if it is, I think they've been doing a horrible job in setting it up to be something like that.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, so I want to move on now to the light system, and I want you to just kind of clarify, because on the one hand, I know you talk about the light system as, I don't know if that's just a way of describing this organization, but on the other hand, there's kind of these technologies like the cube and the pyramid that are basically things that can actually improve health and abilities and so forth. So, why don't you tell us about the light system and explain the difference between the organization and these kind of tools or products?
Absolutely. So the organization itself has nothing to do with this. It just so happens to have a very similar name. The organization is the light system. this company that you're talking about is Light System Inc. Like that's literally the name of the company. So we call it the Light System. Now it's also a system of lights. So it's a very fitting name for what we're talking about here. This is a technology that I do want to say I was first extremely, extremely skeptical about in the very beginning when being acquainted to any technologies like this, because I saw it, and it's around me right now. As you can see, there's a pyramid to my left, there's a cube to my right. This is what it looks like in real time. You could, of course, change the programs and the color combinations and so on and so forth. But when I looked at, and then you have my little levitating plant, which is just a cool little addition. But when I looked at these things first, I said, listen, there's no way, especially coming from my background, there's no way that, scrolling lights with different colors and encoded intentional affirmations can do anything. It sounds like something that's just woo and crazy and doesn't make any sense. What got me to really be an advocate for this and why I speak about it all the time and I'm so passionate is because of what I've seen it actually do. Number one, it's helped me in many ways, but thank God I'm not very sick in any way. So I may not be the best example. I'm just an example of somebody that has a lot of energy when sleeping around this and spending a lot of time around this as well. But I've seen individuals, and these are not medical claims because this technology is not a medical device. The beauty and why I love this technology and what it stands for is because it's not telling you, hey, buy this thing and it's going to heal you. No. It's telling you, you as a human being are the greatest technology out there. You have your own healing mechanisms built into yourself where the body always tries to heal itself. Just like if you were to cut your arm, you don't need to think about it or do anything for it to, the platelets to come together and then the scab and then the new skin to grow. The body has innate divine intelligence within it. What this does is help activate that innate divine intelligence within it to activate the body's healing potential. But it's the body that's healing itself, not the technology that's healing the body. Now, what got me over the edge was I've seen individuals anywhere from simple lower level back pain that they've been dealing with a few years and couldn't get rid of, gone, dissipated, all the way to extreme situations like nonverbal autistic children that are always running around and have all these spurts of energy and don't know how to be calm and also can't really speak over a period of time, have become more verbal, have been able to sleep much better, and have been a lot more calm, all the way to things like stage 4 cancer, literally going into remission. Now, it's not the technology that's doing that, but I'll explain how the technology works in simple terms, very simple terms. You're talking about something called biophotonic light therapy, and polychromatic light therapy is a piece of what this technology does. It's essentially red light therapy, but on a much wider range and on a much wider array. So red light therapy focuses on specific aspects. So for example, if I were to do that, we would bring more of the red light into the spectrum. I just clicked one button, but there's other things that you could do there as well to target it even further. Now, the idea over here is we know red light today. We used to call it quackery. Today, it's something that's widely accepted because red light, which is light measured in nanometers, it's a wavelength measured in nanometers, interacts with the body, penetrates into the body, and is able to rebalance things like inflammation in your body, improve blood circulation in your body, and so on and so forth. Whereas blue may help with things like arthritis. Blue will help with things like your thyroid. Blue will help with things like communication, for example. That's why blue is my favorite color, because my job is to communicate. So when it comes to polychromatic light therapy, you're talking about a wide array of different wavelengths that would be emitted from this technology to help the body rebalance different aspects of the body. The other aspect of it, as you could see right over here, although I don't know if you'll be able to see it completely, is affirmations based on Dr. Masaru Emoto's work. So in the 90s, Dr. Masaru Emoto was a Japanese scientist that had a hypothesis. And he asked, is it possible for my words, my thoughts, my emotions, my beliefs to impact my environment around me? And everybody said, no, you're crazy. You have to touch something for it to change. And he said, well, you may be right, but you may be wrong. So he took a glass of water, in this case, 2 glasses of water. And he put the same water in both. And to one, he said, you're ugly. I hate you. You're bad. And everybody's looking at him like, Doc, what are you doing? You don't look good. This is a joke. And he said, okay, just let me keep going. he looked at the other glass and he said, I love you and you're beautiful and I forgive you and I have compassion for you and so on and so forth. And then he took the water in each glass and he froze it. And he took that frozen water and he put it under a molecular microscope because he wanted to see if on a repetitive basis, because that's what you need to do as part of the scientific method, on a repetitive basis, does the bad water and the good water in terms of intentionality have different molecular structures, and what are they? So in the negative intentioned water, he always saw distorted molecular formations, no structure, a bunch of chaos. And in the positively affirmationed intentionality water, he always saw coherent geometric structures like perfect snowflakes. And the reason why that's important is because we as human beings are made up of over 70% water. And when we have coherent structures of water in the body, electricity flows through the water in our body using conductivity with the minerals in our body, like salt. When we have a formation that is distorted, the energy cannot flow. It is a lack of ease. That's called a dis-ease, otherwise known as a disease. But when you have coherent geometric formations of water in the body, the energy and electricity flows in the body, and you end up having ease, otherwise known as health. So what you're looking at on this screen, it may be hard to see through this camera right now, are actual intentional encoded affirmations that you have the ability to input and change in your own way as well. So if you're looking to overcome something specific, you enter that into the intentionality, almost like when you put the word love on your water bottle and it changes the molecular structure of water, only this is using technology on a consistent basis to do that to your body. This is the container, your body is the water. It's impacting the water in the body, and in short, it's creating a coherent environment for your body to synchronize with. And when you put yourself in a coherent environment, you synchronize with coherency and express health. That's why we're seeing the incredible results that we're seeing all around the world.
Okay, well, when I look at that, I mean, the pyramid and the cube, I mean, it's almost like a hypnotic effect.
Yes.
So, I mean, I deduce from that it's kind of like in creating or encouraging the creation of like alpha or delta brainwave states.
Yeah.
So you want to maybe elaborate on that kind of like inducing particular brainwave frequencies and how that actually is very helpful as far as restoring health and rejuvenation and bringing about higher abilities.
Yeah, so it's a great question. The inventor behind this technology his name is Robert Religa. And Robert Religa was a computer programmer, very good computer programmer. We're talking 40 years ago. Computer programmer with a passion for understanding spirituality, transcendental meditation, so on and so forth. And now I'm just speaking on his behalf after he explained certain things to me. We have an interview with him on my YouTube channel as well. But basically, the way that he explained it was when he was going into these meditations, he found a lot of great things, but he also found a lot of things that took a lot of effort, that made it very hard for the individual to access these higher states because it took a lot of effort to reach them through meditation. So what he did was he took the basic principles that he learned through meditation that have been around for thousands of years. He converged that with his knowledge in computer science, and he wrote a program that will help you reach those states in meditation without all the effort that you have to put in when going through the repetitive chants and so on and so forth in something like transcendental meditation. So the original intention of this technology was not to help the body heal itself. That was the consequence of it. The original intention that Robert Religa had, that he shared on that interview that I did with him of this technology, was to help an individual reach a deeper state of meditation with less effort in a shorter period of time. In this case, things like gamma. Reaching a state of gamma will help you reach incredible things in the world. Now, the outcome of that is when you reach a calmer, more meditative state, the body is then in more flow. It has more flow going through it, and then it's easier for the body to heal itself. So it's interesting how one thing led to another by accident, because his intention wasn't the healing aspect. It was the consequence of his original intention, which was deeper states of meditation.
It's very interesting that you mentioned gamma brainwave states, that because that's something that I've come across again and again in terms of people who are able to access and use extraterrestrial technologies, spacecraft, mind technology interfaces, and gamma brainwaves are essential for that. So what's on display behind you, the pyramid and so forth? How can that induce gamma brainwave? I mean, right now, what kind of brainwave states are they creating?
So right now, this specific one is around 432 hertz in terms of what it's tuned to. That's more so the heart. It's more so bringing in love. This one is tuned to productivity. I forgot which hertz spectrum that one's on specifically. There's a whole manual for those things as well. I also more so focus on the color aspect of it, because different colors will induce different capabilities within yourself by rebalancing aspects of yourself. So the reason why you always see me sitting with blue is because, especially at my desk here in my studio, I'm focused on communication. And on the emotional level, it's going to help with communication. When it comes to meditation, there are certain programs that you can tune this to that are part of the manual when you actually get the technology that will help you induce, whether it's generally delta or gamma, which will bring you into different Hertzian aspects of the Hertzian spectrum. So there's another aspect of this technology, which I don't have here, that are PEMF coils, Rodin coils, covered in copper. And those have specific programs that don't work through light. It works through pulsed electromagnetic frequency. You can also choose through those programs which states you want to induce that correlate to different frequencies that you want to emit through the PEMF coils, or in this case, the Rodin coils with the copper structures around them. That is something that the light system offers. It's also something that comes with something called the light system chair, which is one of the most powerful products that they actually offer in terms of potency. And it also has the coils that come with it.
All right. Well, I know we only have an hour, so let's kind of like wrap it up now. So where do people go if they want to learn more about you and maybe get some of this technology that you've been demonstrating?
Absolutely. So number one, you can always go to my website, jasonshurka.com, just like my name down there. jasonshurka.com. You'll find my socials there, YouTube, Instagram. We're also hosting a really awesome event with Robert Edward Grant, Dr. Ed Group, Dr. Brian Artis. That's going to happen in January of 2026, January 16, 17, and 18, called Becoming Superhuman. 3-day event. So make sure to check that out if you're interested, here in Miami, Florida, in person. Additionally, when it comes to the technology itself, there's a way that you can try it and there's a way that you can buy it. For those who want to try it, first, before anything, there's a website called unifydhealing.com, UNIFYD healing.com. Hundreds of wellness centers in over 50 countries around the world. Many of them have the light system. Many of them have other just incredible technologies that are in this space all around the world. So you can go to unifydhealing.com to find a center near you. And if you want to learn more about the light system technology specifically, you can go to the Light Systems, in plural with an S at the end, thelightsystems.com, schedule a call with a team member if you have any questions, read the education booklet and the handbook, and just check out the technology. It's really cool and it can help you in many ways.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I recommend people go visit your websites, and thank you for sharing a little bit about your background and what you're doing and this incredible information you got from Ray over the years. Look forward to doing this again in the future.
Awesome, Michael. Thank you very much.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.